So we have an update here on the scheduling and what is going on with the Xbox Activision Blizzard acquisition, and there's going to be some big stuff happening as early as next week. We have this blog post here from Foss Patents going over what we can expect, and next week on Tuesday, February 21st, Microsoft is going to be meeting with the European Commission for an oral hearing, and this obviously has to do with the investigation into the acquisition. And it looks like Sony is also going to be at this hearing, so they're going to be right there in the same place debating their points for the Xbox Activision Blizzard acquisition, why they think it should go through, and why Sony thinks it should be blocked. Now, Foss Patents does a great job here breaking down what to expect from this, how this thing is going to go, because it says here that he's been to one of these before, and he says here that a courtroom clash between Microsoft and Sony is virtually certain to happen on this location. This is going to be where the EU provides their statement of objections. This is similar, I believe, to like the preliminary findings style of thing that the CMA gave, and Microsoft is able to sit in the room right with the European Commission and explain why these objections can be fixed, how they can be fixed, and why these objections aren't going to affect competition. It says here, an SO is a preliminary antitrust ruling. Reporters often refer to an SO as an antitrust warning that can come down in different categories of competition cases. For instance, about 2 years ago, the EC issued an SO against Apple's abuse of the App Store market power against Spotify and other music streaming services, but no decision in that has been made. However, with the Xbox Activision Blizzard acquisition, they have until April 11th, 2023 to come up with a decision. So all of this stuff is occurring right now between now and the end of April. We know with the CMA, Xbox is supposed to be sitting down, or Microsoft is supposed to be sitting down with the CMA to go over the preliminary findings, give their pushback on what they had found, and that's supposed to be in February, and then they're going to have till the end of April to actually make their decision. And all of this is leading to that end of June, beginning of July deadline for whether this deal is going to be passed or not, which was something that a lot of analysts had said right at the beginning of this thing when this deal was announced. And obviously with the FTC, that could go all the way to August if they decide to actually go to court and fight this thing. But I feel like if the decisions from the EU and the CMA come and they do decide to push this deal through, whether that's with remedies or not, I feel like that'll have a huge effect on what happens with the FTC as well. It continues here in the Microsoft ABK merger case. There is a clear deadline, April 11th, 2023. After an SO, a party gets access to the case file and can, as Microsoft apparently did, request a merger hearing in Brussels. This means Microsoft will be able to read and respond to Sony's submission to the EU Commission. Now that would be really interesting to sit in and listen to, because we know a lot of the things that Sony has been saying, they're just completely disregarding like the 10-year deal and how that would affect Call of Duty on PlayStation going forward and how that would affect competition. So we'll be able to see here if this information does come out, but hopefully we'll be able to get some rumblings about how Xbox and Microsoft counter Sony's arguments to trying to block this deal, and what type of information is Microsoft going to present. For example, we just are seeing how well Sony has done in 2022 with PlayStation, and them selling now over going to probably sell over 6 billion sales in terms of their games by mid 2023. So I wonder what type of information Microsoft is going to throw and how that's going to affect the EU and how they look at this. The EU, you also have to remember, was the commission that had the guy who's not ruling on this case, he's on the board, but come out and say that they're going to be protecting my PlayStation in the Xbox Activision Blizzard acquisition. I don't know that's going to have a huge effect on this. I don't really think it will. I think it was just a dumb, stupid tweet from that guy, but we'll see. Maybe they'll bring that up and show that, hey, there's bias here towards PlayStation. They say here, Sony could request that some or all of its submissions be kept confidential, but the commission could not rely on confidential facts in its decision. So that's interesting, because if they do request for their submissions to be kept confidential, they can't use on any of that stuff to affect their decision. So I don't think Sony is going to do that, because then that will mean the facts that they're using to try to block this deal aren't actually going to be able to be used within the final decision for whether the EU pushes this deal through or blocks it. Now they say here, Foss Patton says here, I have no doubt Sony, which is fighting Microsoft's subpoena in the US FTC proceeding, will participate. So Sony's going to be right there with Microsoft. And the question is whether Google and Nvidia will do so as well, because we know Google and Nvidia also had some pushback against this. They voiced some concerns, but it was much more tame compared to what Sony has done. For Nvidia, one of the main things they're trying to protect here is GeForce Now with their streaming service, their cloud service, because Game Pass is a huge competitor. It is a better service overall, you could say, and I think it's going to greatly outdo GeForce Now. So this deal will also push them forward even more, and they probably are not too excited about that, but I don't think they have a real case to be able to try to stop this deal. Now, Foss Patent says that they actually attended a EC merger hearing in 2009, so that's how they know about this information. And they say third parties who wish to attend will now have to reach out to one of the EC's hearing officers and explain why they believe they have the right to be heard. So any other third parties that do want to attend this thing are going to have to reach out. And a merger hearing is very similar to a trial, but it is not public. A decision is not announced immediately. So don't expect anything on February 21st for an announcement or for a decision. It's not going to happen right away, but they may state their recommendations, which Microsoft is going to look at, and they're going to be able to see whether this deal is going to be cleared with remedies, or potentially just blocked and not cleared at all. So they may have a lot more information on what they believe the EC is going to do by the end of this hearing, by the end of the day, based off of their recommendation. So this is going to be really interesting. I hope that there is some information that does come out. We know Microsoft has always said that they just want to be able to present their case. They weren't even able to present their case with the FTC stuff. Now they're going to have the opportunity with the EU, and it will be very, very interesting to see if the EU changes their minds based off of what they are thinking right now on the deal, whether it goes through or not, based off of the information that Microsoft is going to be able to present to them, and then how Sony is going to counter that, and if they will be able to back up the claims that they have made against this acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Here is an updated timeline that Foss Patent has put out. As we can see here, you got the February 21st merger hearing with the EU, and then sometime between February 27th and March 6th is going to be the response from Microsoft to the CMA, because as we know, they had a couple of weeks, I think it's 21 days, that they are able to use in order to come up with a response to the CMA's provisional findings before they make their final decision on whether the deal is going to go through, which would come sometime in April. So the EU, the CMA decision deadlines in April. You have the FTC, which the earliest closing date, I believe, for them would be, I guess, August, or the latest closing date would be August if they go to court and everything. But they also can come to some sort of agreement before that. So it'll be exciting times as to, if you're following what's going on here with the Xbox Activision Blizzard deal. Next couple of weeks are going to be crucial, and we'll see what happens at this hearing between Microsoft, potentially Sony, which I'm sure they're going to show up like he says, and the European Commission. But I'll leave it there, guys. Let me know what you think about this. Let me know what you think about the updated timeline, and what do you think is going to happen at this hearing. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.